Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In this episode we are going to create a timer or a countdown in React Native. I was inspired by Oleg. He created this beautiful countdown animation, and I'll show you my way of doing it in React Native by using the Animated API and FlatList. As you can see from the screen, there are multiple animations that are happening on the screen. The first one, the button from the bottom, it's actually moving after pressing it. There is a container that's actually moving down based on the timer. There's also a flat list there, or a list of items where you can choose from. And after pressing the button, the text is going to change based on the countdown. So lots of animations, and I'll show you and walk you through and teach you how to use the Animated.parallel and Animated.sequence in order to achieve this type of animation, plus how to actually update a text based on the animation value. So let's play the intro, jump straight into VS Code, and start building this countdown animation in React Native. Shall we? Alrighty guys, so we are in VS Code here. I've set it up the project. The link to the source code, like the starter code, it's down in the description. So please go ahead, grab it, take it in your VS Code or your IDE, and let's start from the same ground. Let me walk you through what we have here so far. We are importing a couple of dependencies from React Native. We are getting the width and height from dimensions. We have some predefined colors for the background, the red and the text itself. And we define here some timers, and we will display until 60, but how it's this working? If it's the first timer, is going to be 1, otherwise we multiply the index with by 5, so we'll have 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 and so on. Then we define an item size. This is basically for the flat list that will be displaying the timers, and then an item spacing, basically subtracting the entire width. From the entire width, it's subtracting the item size and is dividing it by 2. So basically it's going to be spacing, item size, and then it's going to add those at the end of the flat list in order to create this the flat list to start the first item and the last item to be in the middle of the screen. And here below we have an animated view, which is this button, and inside it's a touchable opacity. Nothing is doing on press, so it's just a dummy one so far. And below we have a view where we are going to display the flat list along with the text input that we will update during the transition. So first thing, I would like to start by creating the flat list and the timers. And here down below I'll have a flat list. We'll pass the data as timers. We'll have a key extractor as item, and then item to string. The reason why I'm passing this to string, because key extractor wants to have keys as strings, and in our case the item is actually a number. And down below I'll render the item. We'll get the item, and then we will return a view. Containing a text, and the text for it is going to be item, and the style is going to be styles text. Alright, so we have this beautiful flat list here. Let's make this horizontal, so horizontal is true. We'll like to get rid of the bounces. It's equal to false, and this is how it's actually going to look like. We also need to hide the horizontal indicator, so it's going to be false. Alright, and let's apply it to this view width. So width is going to be item size. Alright, and notice that the first item is not starting from the middle of the screen, and that's where the spacing comes into hand. So here I'll apply a content container style and apply a padding horizontal of item spacing. Right, so this is going to start from the middle. This is looking really good. I would also like to apply a style of flex grow 0. So this is going to take only the available space for the flat list. All right, now the other thing we need to build is apply like a bounce, like a snap to alignment. So here we will create a snap to interval. It's going to be item size. And now it's going to snap with an item size, because each item has an item size width assigned to it. This is where it's going to snap, and also want to pass a deceleration rate of fast. So this is going to happen really, really fast. All right, this is looking really good. I'll also like to justify the content here to the center and align the items to the center as well. So we'll have this this beautiful thing. All right, and now let's convert this into an animated flat list and actually play around with the items from inside. So first, let's convert this into an animated view. Have here create on top scroll X is going to be React, use ref, a new animated value, starting from 0, get the current. The reason why I'm using useRef is because I would like React to keep track of animations. So whenever this component will be re-rendered, I will not lose the track of the animation itself or the animation value. And it's also performant, so I rely on whatever React feels to do. And here I will define an onScroll, and onScroll is going to be an animated event. And I'm going to take from the native event the content offset, the X, and assign it to the scroll X. And in our case, we will use the native driver. So 60 FPS, basically everything is going to happen on the UI thread. Now nothing should happen, but we have assigned the scroll position to an animated value. And now we can interpolate that value and change the behavior of the items within the flat list. And here inside the render item, we need to first grab the index. And this index is really useful to know the position of the item. So we will create for each item a specific interpolation based on the scroll X and the index. So here we will have an input range. And the input range is going to be index -1 multiplied with the item size. Grab this one and index multiplied with the item size and index +1. Basically, this is how should animate, or this is the input range based on the previous, current, and next item from the flat list. And based on this input range, we can play around with the opacity. So opacity, it's create here a constant opacity is going to be scroll X, and we'll interpolate it. We'll pass the input range as input range that we've defined above, and the output range is going to be 0.4, 1, and 0.4. Basically, if it's not the current index from the flat list, make it 0.4 opacity, otherwise make it 1, so it's really visible. And convert this view into an animated view. Maybe, you know what, just apply this directly to the text. So convert the text instead into an animated view, and here inside the text apply multiple styles, and we'll apply an opacity. And now all the items, but not the active one, is going to change the opacity based on the active slide. And copy this and also scale down. We would also like to scale down the number, and here along with the opacity we can pass the transform and scale. So this is how it's going to look like. I think the scale is like 2, small, maybe 0.7, and yeah, this is how it's going to look like, which it's looking more like a carousel and a timer selector, right? What I would like to do next is whenever we press on this button, we would like to start some animations. And the animation is going to have a full width and height container that's going to be initially out of the viewport, right? So it's going to be translated on the Y, the screen height. And when this button is going to animate and the animation is going to start, I would like to move it really fast at the top, and then based on the user selection here, I would like to move it down, down, down from 0 to height on a duration of how many seconds the user actually selected. So first we need to grab the user selection, and to do that we go here at the top and create some state. So we'll have a duration and a set duration, which is a React use state, and we'll start from 0. Or to be more precisely, we can start from timers and 0, right? Because this is going to be the default, in our case 1. And we have the duration here, and inside the flat list, in order to get where is situated the flat list scroll X, we can use the onMomentum scroll end. So onMomentum scroll end, this will get the event from the native event. And onMomentum scroll end is basically saying when this this transition, like now, this scroll event actually ended. So we will have the X and Y coordinates, and we can see based on a math formula where it's actually located, right? So here we will get the index is going to be event, native event, and content offset, and we will have the X, and we will be dividing this into an item size. So based on the item size, we know now what index it is, but we also need to floor this, so it's going to be like a rounded or a natural number. And with this index we can set the duration from timers and index. It's that simple, right? And in order to see, like, we got the index, and from the timers list, based on the index, we take the value. And to see if this is actually working, before rendering the flat list, let's assign here a text, style this, so styles text, and apply the duration. So we will see when this is going to be changed, we will modify the duration, and instead of math floor, let's use math round, so it's going to be above, right? And now it's 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on. So this is actually really good. And now when the animation is going to start, we would like to animate based on this duration. And let's create the animations, right? First, actually before creating the animations, we actually need to create the wrapper that's going to take the entire screen, and it will have some styling. So here we'll have an animated view. This animated view is going to have only a style, so the style is going to be style sheet absolute fill object, and then we'll pass a height of height, a width of width, and then a translate Y of timer animation. So timer animation is going to be an animated value, so React use ref new animated value that's going to start from height instead. So we would like to start from outside of the screen, right? Now this shouldn't be visible, right? But if we will need to transform and then translate the timer animation, right? And if we decide to have height divided by 2 and apply here a background color of colors and then the red, you'll notice that now this is half of the screen, right? And with height, hit refresh here, is going to be outside of the view. And we would like to first move it fast at height 0, right? That translate y 0, and then move down based on the duration. So let's create that animation. So here we'll have an animation. It's going to be a React, use callback, and we will depend on the duration. So if the user will modify the duration, we will recall this method, right? So we will initialize it. And here we will have an animated sequence. So we will animate in sequence. Sequence means one after the other, right? And here we will have an array. And now we will animate, we will use the animated timing, and we will animate this timer duration. We'll go to value 0, and the duration is going to be duration multiplied with 1000. We'll use the native driver for it. And what this is actually saying, it's, hey, you should animate the timer animation to value 0 based on the duration that's actually modified by the user. So now if I'm thinking about it, this should be the height of the screen, right? But notice that we actually are starting from height and we are going to the height. So this animation, first thing that we need to figure it out is how we can actually go at the top. That's really easy. So we'll have an animated timing here, again in sequence, and we'll modify the timer animation to go to value 0 with a duration of 300, and we'll use the native driver for it. So notice that we are actually modifying the timer from height to 0 with a 300 milliseconds, and then from 0 to height back where it was previously with a different duration. And now if I start the animation, now we will need this callback in a future, but now when this button is going to be clicked or pressed, we would like to start the animation, right? So first is going to move up with 300 milliseconds and then go down for 1 second. But notice if I'm changing the 5, it's going to go up 300 and then go down for 5 seconds. So basically we've created the countdown in a way or another. There are actually missing parts here. So the first one, it's actually I would like to move down this button, right? So this button should go down and then start the animation. So let's create some additional animations here. So we'll have another animation, so we'll go button animation. So button animation is going to start from 0, and we'll create again in sequence. We'll have, let's copy this. So we will have an animated timing. We will change the button animation to go to value 1 for 300 milliseconds, okay, and then actually perform the animation. And now don't forget that we actually need to modify it backwards, right? So this is going to be, when this is going to be finished, I would like to set the value to 0, right? And with this button animation in place, we can create some opacity for the button container here. So we'll interpolate it. The input range is going to be 0 and 1, and the output range is going to be 1 and 0. And let's apply the same for translate y. And 0, 1, the same input range, but the output range is going to be, in the first place, when it's 0, it's going to be 0, but when we go, after pressing it, we go down. So with those animations, we can actually come here to the touchable opacity and create a transform, translate Y, and also the opacity. Hit save, and now when I press the button, this is going to go down, and then the container will start. Look. We can actually animate this. So if you'd like to animate it now, this should be really easy to do. So here at the start, we are actually going to animate timing, and we'll animate the button animation. We'll go to value 0 with a duration of 300, and we will use the native driver for it. And don't forget to start the animation. So now when this is going to finish, this is going to be visible again. All right, the other part is, now that we have both the animation in place, I would like to hide the flat list, but show this number from here. And in order to fake it in a way or another, we need to go where we have the this text here, but instead wrap everything into an animated view. Inside this animated view, we'll have a text input. And the reason why I'm using a text input is because we can change the value on the fly. So here we'll have a ref, so we'll need an input ref. We'll also have a style of styles text, right? And we'll have a default value of duration to string. This is the default duration, and input range is not, input ref is not defined. Let me go above here and create this ref here. So const input ref is going to be a React use ref. All right, this is working. This is basically the same, right? It's changing everything here. But now what I would like to do is to move it above and actually be on top or sit on top of this flat list. So in order to do that, let's assign some stylings here. So we'll position this absolute. We will give it width center and align self center. The width is going to be the same width, so item size, right? We should also align the items to the center. Now notice that this is actually exactly the same number, right? It's sitting on top of the flat list, but it's always visible. So we need to hide it in the first place and show it only when the animation will start. And let's create, based on this timer, let's create another animation here. So we'll have this button animation. We'll create a constant here, so we'll say the text opacity. We'll use the same interpolation, but this time we will invert it. So the text opacity is going to be 1 when the animation is not finished, and is going to be 0. And so basically the animation didn't start, so it's not visible, otherwise it's visible, right? And if we go to the where it is the text itself, so this is an animated, we play around with the opacity, which is a text opacity. You'll notice that now it's not visible, but when we press the we start the animation. Let me start again the animation with 5. Now it's going to be visible, but we need to hide the flat list on the same time. So we can actually play around with the with hiding the flat list using the same opacity as here, right? So here if we go to the flat list, here we can apply the opacity. And now when we start the animation, we fade out the flat list but fade in the text. All right, so let's play around. Whoop, it's looking really good. Whoop. Cool. The missing part is actually updating the text input, right? And for that we actually need another animation. And by animation, I'll need to do text input animation. And the text input animation is going to start again from timer 0, right? Nothing fancy here. But basically we are going to do the same thing as we did for the timer animation, but now instead of the height we are going to go to the duration, and we need to do it in parallel with the timer animation. So now here let's cut this animation, and instead of it we go with animated parallel, and this time we will like to also animate the container with the background, but also the timer itself, the timer value, right? And let's copy those guys here, and we can have a text input animation. But this time the duration is going to be the value, but the same duration as duration, right? Now if I hit save, nothing is going to be changed, but we have access to the text input animation value. And with that in mind, we can create React use effect. Here we listen to add an event listener to the text input animation. So text input animation add listener will get the value, and here inside we will do an input ref, get the current, and then we'll set the native props with text, and here we will do math seal the value to string. I'll go in a minute why we are doing this, but here before we need to also remove the event listener. So text input, remove listener. Let me create here a const listener, remove the listener, a YOLO method here, remove all listeners. Okay. And now this should update, right? It's going to be 5. Let's start again. So it's going to be 5 always. Just let me refresh it and you'll notice a small bug, but we are going to fix it. So it's 5, but suddenly it's 2, 3, 4, 5. What's happening? And the reason for that, it's actually we would like to start from the duration and go to 0. So in order to do that, first in the animation we need to do text input animation. We get the set value with the duration. So instantly when we call the animation we are at 5, right? We are at 10. So if I press now the button is going to start from 10. And where we animate this one, we would like to go to value 0. So we will basically create a countdown for the text, right? And now if I press play, it's going to animate it. So it's 10, 9, 8. Let me actually refresh and start with a smaller number. So 5 is going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, right? When this is finished, I would like to actually inform the user. And the best way to inform the user that the timer is actually finished is to use the vibration. So I've already imported vibration from React Native, and here when the animation is actually going to finish, I would like to vibrate cancel. So cancel whatever vibration you have, and then I would like to vibrate. Of course, on my simulator is not going to happen or is not going to vibrate, right? But the main idea here is that we also need to inform the user, right? Using a simple vibration API. Now it should vibrate and it should go to the final state. The last thing that I would like you to focus on is that notice the 0 and then the 5. Again, this is just a tiny thing which it's ruining the whole experience. And in order to fix that, when this animation is actually it's finished, I would like to reset immediately the timer, the text input timer, to the duration itself. So here on when this animation is going to finish, so on the start callback, we'll have a text input animation. We'll set the value back to the duration. So watch what will happen now. So it's going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, and then go back. But to 5 is really fast. And in order to fix that, when we run this in parallel, before anything else, we can actually delay it. So it's animated, we delay this animation with, let's apply 400. So now before calling this callback that everything is finished, we are actually going to wait for 400 milliseconds. So it's going to go down, 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 everything is updated. And now it's going to wait, and then it's going to wait for 400 milliseconds. And then it's going to do whatever on the callback. So that was it, guys. I'm pretty sure that it was a long video. I hope that you follow up and you learn something new. You can either apply it in your existing project or some new projects of yours. Hopefully you learned more about the animated API, more specifically about the parallel and sequence, and how to actually update a text based on the animated value that's actually moving. I hope that you've enjoyed this tutorial. Subscribe to my channel, give it a like. Also, you can double smash the dislike button, it's also going to help me out. Without other words, see you in the next video, and thank you so much for staying along with me. Bye bye, guys.